These are Republicans who are signing on to something that only 10 years ago would have been too radically far left for even the farthest left people in the Democrat Party.
You're seeing someone just melt down about the Overton window in real time. That's the Principal Skinner on nightmare mode, you know? Am I so out of touch? No, it's every other Republican right now who is wrong. We must ramp up our bigotry. More hate. What about rainbows? Some of these assholes, because they're scared of the rainbows, and that's just weird. Yeah, let's see Shapiro.
A quick majority in the Senate could quickly overturn this law. Okay, but the idea here is that you're going to get all the Republicans on record as to whether they support or do not support same-sex marriage. Now, let me just put this out there for the Republican senators. If you vote in favor of the idea that society has an obligation to recognize male-male or female-female dyads in the same way that society has an obligation to recognize male-female, you should not be in the Republican Party.
Damn. You just got Shapiro'd. Yeah. How are you going to live this one down? How could you do this?
You should.
Trade.
Okay, the reason I say this is not because I wish to shrink the size of the Republican Party.
Okay.
Because if the fundamental basis of human society is male, female, child, and you think that by passing a law you can change that reality, you do not belong in government. This is a very simple proposition. Men and men are not the same as a man and a woman who are capable of becoming one flesh and producing.
Yeah, they have sex.
But this is not difficult stuff. Many Republicans will be tempted to vote for this simply to avoid the conflict, so that people don't yell at them. Oh my gosh, you're not respecting love is love. Now, first of all, the love is love argument was always bullcrap.
Look, I'm just gonna say
was always bullcrap. How do you get? Yes, it would appear that despite the fact that I myself may not be in a relationship with another man, if I see two men who are deeply in love with each other, they seem to be rather happy. Seems as if love doesn't really depend on the gender. The gender part doesn't even really matter at all. So it seems like they're just happy. What's wrong there, Ben? I don't get it.
Ben, you look like a bozo, bro, and you get no pussy, and you can't even make your wife wet, bro, so what's good? So anyways, now that that's out of the way, had to get it out of my system. Ben Shapiro says that the love is love argument is crap. And essentially, marriage is about having children. Except if that were true, then we wouldn't allow couples who were infertile the privilege of getting married. So these arguments are so old. These are pre-2010 arguments. And
also, I thought this was kind of a dying thing, as in, like, it's just not that politically popular except in, like, really deep red parts of the US. But for the overall, like, the average American, they're not really hung up on this. In fact, there's even, like, gay Republicans, mostly white, but there's gay Republicans. And so it's kind of like, yeah, Dave Rubin. I know Dave Rubin didn't have a good time when he came out with kids. Everyone was like, oh, what the fuck? How did you acquire these? Are these, did you adopt? I was like, no, we had a surrogate. You had a what? A surrogate. You are Satan incarnate, and you must be cleansed from the earth, lest you know the sin you hath wrought upon me, the Lord your God. Well, this is the Denny's. I still want to eat. My point is that they go after their own pretty quick. You're never safe. There's no pick me.
The Republican Party should continue to lose in perpetuity just so that way they can continue to own same-sex couples and not allow them equal rights. Well, I think that the GOP senators who are voting for this are savvy. Because, I mean, regardless of how they feel personally about same-sex marriages, and again, I don't think you're a reasonable person if you're against it, but regardless of how they feel, they understand that to be a bigot is turning off independence.
Yes.
It is, to begin with, it's not just this, but it is also, to begin with, a threat to an attack on religious liberty.
Oh, shit.
That's where it ultimately leads. Because if you're codifying on a federal level that two men have a right to get married, it's a human right, a civil right, then that would mean by extension that, that a church that refuses to marry a gay couple is depriving them of their basic human civil rights. They may not be putting that language in the bill exactly because they
Like, what is it, 2000? I feel, again, this is like a 20-year-old argument that used to be what people would talk. Like, we don't have these talks anymore. We've kind of moved on. Now the trans thing is the culture war issue, but they're still stuck in that. Like, that, I don't know if you all saw, Joe Rogan brought on Matt Walsh, and for the first, I'd say, third of their entire episode, it's just hardcore transphobia. Joe being like, yo, bro, your thing was so good, bro. That was such a good, fucking great documentary, bro. You know, I can't believe you finally told the truth, bro. Like, that's basically the whole thing for a long time, until he starts getting fact-checked, and then, like, Jamie pulls up stats, and, like, Matt Walsh is like, well, yeah, I believe that over, like, I'd say close to 1 million children have been given puberty blockers, and then it's like, Jamie pulls it up, it's like, yeah, there's less than 1,000 kids last year, and he was like, oh, it's like, yeah, you're really off by a margin of like 5,000. But then they got into an argument. The last half of that whole podcast fiasco, Spotify, be ashamed of yourself, is Matt Walsh, Joe Rogan arguing about same-sex marriage, because obviously Joe Rogan has moved well past that for a long time. He's actually kind of been on the right side of that issue for a lot of his career, and Matt Walsh still doing all these old-timey arguments, you know. Like, this, it's in the Bible. One man, one woman, sanctity of marriage, you know?
want it to pass, but that's what it means. And that's how it will be used, no matter what the bill says. And I'll tell you this, that, you know, any Republican who would sign on to a bill like this, I don't care if they have this weak, you know.
So everyone was astounded on the right as to what happened in the midterms. You saw all their shows. We were watching them here. We were seeing what their commentary was. They were all coming out saying the same shit. We are losing with certain voters. And then, like, look what the left was promising them. They were legalizing marijuana, reducing their tuition and debt. Like, they had reasons to, go to the polls. It turns out that, like, abortion isn't actually as popular a thing as we thought. And, like, we really overplayed our hands with the trans thing. You have no idea how bad that was. So in the state of Michigan, which now Democrats control, I think, entirely for the first time in something like 30 years. I can't remember the exact number there, but they spent millions of dollars on attack ads for trans people, on like trans people in sports, trans people in schools, trans people. They're trying to come after your kids. Doctors are going to be giving your kids puberty blockers. It's going to sterilize them forever. Don't vote, don't vote, don't vote. Turns out that didn't move the pulse. Turns out that was a massive waste of money. Turns out the average American doesn't have this fucking rage hate for trans people. That's something that is like, these really, really, really loud assholes make it appear that way because they spend all day going to the extremes. Like, it's not even like, well, I just want to ask some questions. Why exactly are things moving this quickly? We should be able to. No, this is like, these are straight up hate speech mongers. Like, they're straight up people who say the most horrifying fucking things you can about a very marginalized group. But again, that very marginalized group is not scaring the rest of America, because the rest of America, either if it's the youth who have a lot more interactions and experiences being around trans people, but people in general realize, oh yeah, this isn't actually horrifying. Elliot Page doing the tour on a whole bunch of different, like, late night talk shows, and people see him and they're like, oh yeah, he seems super happy. I'm really happy for him. This is adorable. Why do I have to be angry about this all the time and scared about this? It's silly,
They've created this Trojan horse now where they're pretending that they're protecting religious liberty. Doesn't matter. Any Republican who would sign on to
Winston,
that
I'll get to your article.
should be exiled.
See, this is an important part we should be talking about. Do I still have it open? Yes. Okay. This came out November 16th. Almost twice as many Republicans died from COVID before the midterms than Democrats. Now, I know there are going to be people on the left who are just like, hell yeah, this is it, blah, blah, blah. No, this is not it. Universal healthcare is universal healthcare. Everyone should have healthcare. I don't care what their political ideologies are. The victory is not going to be coming from watching every single one of my political opponents die because of their fucking millionaires paid by billionaires fucking propaganda machines actually killing them. That's not the solution to this. You need to win in the hearts and minds of people. Honestly, if you want substantial and long-term change, not just hope the enemy suddenly disappears, as does their ideology. Does their ideology die from COVID as well. Those very things that get passed down, ideas of white supremacy, standards of beauty, is all of that dying with every Republican that dies too? It's like, oh, we did it, unlocked. Another Republican has died, so hath his ideology. No, that shit keeps going. That's why it's more important, again, to wins in the hearts and minds of people. This goes to show you that the pundits, and on both sides, by the way, they probably didn't think about the long-term effects of this, but if you've got Tucker Carlson and Fox News lying to your face every night and saying, hey, by the way, you could die, hey, by the way, you could die, this is a myocarditis, the vaccine's very scary, horse paste, all that kind of stuff every single night for profit, en masse, and the majority of the pundits do that. Like, for some reason, it's directly aligned with your politics in terms of whether or not you think it's safe to take the vaccine. There are exceptions, Donald Trump, there are exceptions, Ben Shapiro, for example, but a lot of them, even people who are just like, I would say generally, as human beings, confused, like Jimmy Dore, even they're doing the same thing. All of them are doing this shit. It's having an effect. Like, the authors of a new study can't say if it impacted the midterms, but say it's plausible given just how stark the difference in vaccination rates have been amongst Democrats and Republicans. The long-term effects of their punditry, of lying to their audiences, for profit, by the way, is that they are killing their voter base, and they are hurting their voter base as a result. Part of me has to wonder, when are they going to wake up to this? Is like, I guess all you have to do if you're on the right is say this is fake news. And that problem solved. Be like, well, according to statistics, studies, data, that we're dying at a lot higher rate than Democrats because we're not vaccinated. And it's like, fake news. I mean, Vice, did you know who fucking founded Vice? Gavin McInnes. Gavin McInnes shoved the dildo up his ass. Does that sound like a person we can trust?
From the party. It won't happen because this is the direction the whole party is going. But that's what should happen. You know, these are Republicans who are signing on to something that only 10 years ago would have been too radically far left for even the farthest left people in the Democrat Party.
It must be so frustrating.
Oh, fucking, you're seeing someone just melt down about the Overton window in real time. That's the Principal Skinner on nightmare mode, you know? Am I so out of touch? No, it's every other Republican right now who is wrong. We must ramp up our bigotry. More hate. What about rainbows?
But put aside the rule of construction, the thing that's really amazing to me is that it is now apparently the law of the land and societal rule that the only rationale that you would possibly have for saying that a marriage is between a man and a woman is because you're a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim. That's really the only reason at all. That the only reason will allow you to have these crazy beliefs so long as you can show that they're crazy beliefs. So long as you can show that the reason that you believe that marriage is between a man and a woman is because you read it in a book and because you really believe the book. They keep saying sincere religious belief. I don't even know how you measure sincere religious belief. Are we going to, like, now monitor how often you go to church or to synagogue, whether you keep kosher or whether you...
This is class solidarity going down right here, because we have both a prominent Jewish conservative right next to a theocratic fascist white supremacist, but on the same team for nowsies, you know? We let's just say similar trajectories. We just might have some, you know, different steps along the way.
Take communion in order to determine your sincere... I mean, the same media that declares that Nancy Pelosi is a sincere religious believer who's just for the mass abortion of unborn children will declare that you, Matt Walsh, are not actively in favor of the things that you're in favor of. You're just a religious bigot. You're a bigot, right? And your religion is a cover for your bigotry.
Yes.
I'm highly annoyed by the constant derogation of non-religious arguments into religious arguments. And this is what the left loves to do. They like to say, you're pro-life. The reason you're pro-life is because of your crazy religion. And so maybe we can respect your crazy religion along those. That is not the argument for marriage. The argument for marriage has literally nothing to do with religion. You could be a visitor from Mars, and you could see that all of human procreation relies on man, woman, child. This is not particularly difficult stuff. By essentially boxing in the argument in favor of traditional marriage into, well, if you're a crazy religious believer, maybe we'll let you have that. But, you know, if you're
So I'm pretty sure if the Martians came down from on high and saw what was going on the Earth and seen the Earthlings and seen them pairing up again, no, that wouldn't be the only conclusion they come to. It would just be weird because there's like literally thousands and thousands of married couples who, well, I would say probably millions, who are having trouble conceiving. Yeah, they're having a lot of trouble doing that. It's definitely difficult, can be very expensive as well. That doesn't mean all of a sudden that it invalidates their marriage, you know? You're putting a lot of pressure on both sides, you know? You're putting a lot of pressure on women to be ideally fertile. You're also putting a lot of pressure on men whose sperm counts are just disintegrating. They're in free fall. Thank you, microplastics. And, you know, and what happens should the man not be able to achieve an erection? What if a man has erectile dysfunction, which is a normal bodily function, by the way? What if that happens? Has he suddenly no longer become a man? Is the marriage invalidated on the spot, in that moment? If he does not fold over and try to shove in, does it mean that there's nothing left? It's like just the ashes of their marriage, you know? One time is all you get.
If you're a cake baker, then we're not sure about that, right? I mean, like, we're not sure how far this religious liberty thing extends. What you're really doing is you're setting the ground game at same-sex marriage and traditional marriage are completely the same thing. And if you object to it,
they're still on about the fucking cakes. You can order cakes online now. You don't even have to go inside. You don't even have to face the bigotry. You can just fool the fucking homophobic bakers. Be like, hey, I need a wedding cake. Is it for one man and one woman? Yeah, sure, whatever you want, fucking bigot-ass bigot. Anyways, yeah, I'll take your finest cake. Thank you.
The only reason that we'll even allow you to do that is because of this crazy thing called religion.
Good stuff. I still haven't seen the rainbows, though. Okay, let's hear about the rainbows.
So again, Republicans will have the tailwind of the culture war to back them here. Tulsi Gabbard announced yesterday that she'd left the Democratic Party. She was signing a deal, actually, with Fox News as a contributor. And she left the Democrats because she wasn't wearing all the ribbons. And this is correct. The Democratic Party culture.
Exactly what everyone said. Like every single person. This is what we all said was going to happen. Right here. This is it. Ben Shapiro doing this entire whole, like, you know, Tulsi Gabbard left the left, and it was because she wasn't willing to give in to woke ideology. She wouldn't give in to woke CRT ideology, wouldn't give in to woke trans ideology, wouldn't even give in to woke gay ideology. And so she couldn't stand it anymore, and then had to do a rage quit.
Platform continues to be the single greatest factor militating in Republicans' favor. It's not even their economic program. It is not, in fact, their bad inflationary policy or their just gobbling up tons of taxpayer cash and then vomiting it out again at people, exorcist style. It's not that. What is alienating blacks, Hispanics, males across the board?
Males.
Is the insistence by the left that all of their cultural presets be celebrated by America more broadly. Tulsi Gabbard makes that pretty clear here, and she's correct.
Do this. When you look down, what do you see? You don't see anything because you're not wearing any ribbons. It means you're a bigot. It means you're a racist. It means you're a sexist. It means you're a homophobe. It probably means you're a white guy. It probably means you're a European. And you.
Yeah, so if you're confused because you're a Zoomer, back in the day, there's a different campaigns that started going down depending on what you were supporting. Pink ribbon, you're supporting breast cancer, stuff like that. Different colors meant different things. Then things really kicked up near the end of the 90s when it started being these like little plastic bracelets that you would wear. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to defend the virtue signaling with cosmetics. I think it's, I always thought it was absurd. I'll be honest with you. I think slacktivism is absurd. I think everyone changing their profile pictures to Je suis Paris has not fundamentally saved anything. Solidarity is nice. Solidarity is good, and it can make people feel welcome when they're downtrodden. I'm not against you doing it for those purposes, but thinking that it actually does anything other than, hey, look at all these plastic wristbands I got. Here's the things that it was just, yeah, it was commodified virtue signaling. That's what it was.
You alone are responsible for all the ills of America, but I'm not because I'm wearing these ribbons. I care more than you.
One of the reasons why I left the Democratic Party is because, as you can see, I wasn't wearing all the ribbons.
You know what's so wild about Tulsi? Because, like, what an opportunist. Not even a couple years ago, giving the endorsement to Bernie Sanders, then moving on to the Joe Biden, then I'm going to do my own campaign, then during my own campaign, I'm slowly going to slide, and as I slide, I'm going to feel things out. How are they going? Okay, we're getting ready, getting more and more right. Lots of people are calling me out. Lots of people are like, what's going on? Ramping up the transphobia, oh, it's getting hardcore. Holy shit, she's going to fucking rallies now. Okay, well, this is intense. And then boom, finally doing the why I left the left. And who do you do it with? Matt Walsh of all people, Matt Walsh is an extremist. Like, it's one thing to suddenly be like, okay, well, I'm gonna do a little special on Tucker Carlson tonight, who's also an extremist, but he's a very like commercially viable one. Matt Walsh is just the straight up fucking, I will fucking say the worst things that come to mind because I'm so boring, no one cares. And then all of a sudden it's like the whole thing was moving towards this. Oh, I should not forget doing a full campaign for a whole bunch of far-right figures in the last midterm and having every single one of them fail. Not a single one who got the Tulsi curse did not fail. So I don't know, maybe that's going to be a part of it as well. Anyone she endorses ends up fucking crashing and burning. That's pretty fun. And now, full-time Fox News correspondent. There you go. You did it. You got everything you want, I guess. You're going to be rich. You're going to be famous. You're going to be beloved by the right. You get to say all the things you actually were feeling the whole time. You don't have to worry about the ribbons anymore, Tulsi. You can finally be free. You can finally get out there and be like, I just hate trans people. I just hate gay people. Yeah. Always have. Always have. Probably always will. Yep. All that shit that I was doing in my father and his organization back in the day, that was all, yep, that's who I truly was. I know I apologized for being into conversion therapy, super homophobic stuff, but no. I don't apologize. I shouldn't have. It was who I truly am. I get to live my best self. And just look at the happiness now. The Joker smile, you know?
I was condemned for not wearing all the ribbons. The reality is that even if you have 19 of the 20 ribbons, if you don't have that last one, then you're a cast out. You're not welcome. You're canceled. You're done.
Damn.
There is no end to this insanity.
That, of course, is exactly correct. And you can see it throughout the...
It's the narrative that all of us have always wanted to believe, because we've always, that's the weird cartoon version of you. So we're really happy that we have yet another person willing to sell us that idea. Yeah, thank you very much to Dave Rubin, Glenn Greenwald, and now Tulsi Gabbard. So many fantastic, you know, they used to be liberals or leftists, and now look at them. They're here to tell us how the left has gone wild and crazy with ideology. They require you to collect ribbons, like power-ups, and if you don't have the right stack and loadout, well, then you're not going to do as well in the game of leftism. You'll probably get cancel cultured, and that's the worst thing of all. Yeah.
Culture, and in the most annoying and silly possible ways. So, one of the big stories of the last couple of days is that USA Soccer is now making a statement at the World Cup in Qatar. So they're not boycotting the World Cup in Qatar because of Qatar's restrictive lifestyle laws with regard to LGBT and women and all the rest of this.
He was having a hard time with that one, right? Because it's like, fundamentally, I do agree with those laws. I kind of like them. That's kind of what I want for our society, but at the same time, gotta always ramp up the Islamophobia. Don't ever show that, like, you know, hardcore orthodoxy coming from any kind of corner also usually gets a little bit extreme, so we're just gonna have to, we'll play loose with this one.
No, they're gonna play, but they are changing their logo, and that is deeply exciting stuff. According to the Daily Mail, the U.S. men's national team have made a huge statement at the World Cup in Qatar.
Why do you care?
By redesigning their crest to incorporate the rainbow flag. You see, because this is what the USA stands for. USA no longer stands for the red, white, and blue. It stands for the orange, slightly lighter orange, yellow.
Wait, did you just say slightly lighter orange, yellow? Motherfucker, you gotta get back on your colors. Someone get my boy a crayon box.
Blue. It stands for the orange, slightly lighter orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, brown.
And now you know your colors too.
That's what the USA stands for. It stands for the rainbow. The American flag has literally been replaced with the rainbow flag in the USA logo for the World Cup.
I feel like even you, as you're saying this out loud, are having trouble dealing with how ridiculous the segment is. And man, just like days after defeat, because Americans as voters aren't as deeply concerned about all this bullshit as you are. And then like a couple days later, it's like, oh, I got one for you. Let's ramp it up. You know, like the Lizzo flute? Yeah, this is going to make that look like Mr. Potato Head, okay? We got a flag, an actual flag with a rainbow on it. Refracted light. That's right. Look at this. Different colors, some of which I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with. We got orange and the slightly less orange yellow.
I guess that's fitting. Because, again, this is what the left presumably would like to do. They don't like the idea of the American principles embodied in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. They do, however, like the transgressivism implicit in the notion that the only value that is worth upholding is the value of transgressive identification with your subjective sexual feeling. And that is the only thing that is worthwhile upholding. And, of course, this is going to make a huge difference to, I'm sure, all of the gay people who live in Qatar. The U.S. Wow. By the way, the U.S. is not going to play with these on the field. The U.S. is just going to put this in their special designated sections.
Then why do you should care about this even less? It's even less like outrageous, isn't it? By the way, they're not really going to use it. Barely. They just made an announcement. In fact, they've just shown out of solidarity. They're posting it once on socials. That's about it. But that's enough.
Over in the press area. So, slow clap for all of the virtue signaling from U.S. men's soccer.
I mean, I'll agree with you. It's not going to change anything. It's certainly not going to improve human rights in Qatar. It's not the same thing as boycotting outright. That is all true. Also, it's a rainbow. Who cares?
It starts on Sunday. Sees the U.S. play their opener against Wales. It's been hugely controversial in its buildup, given Qatar's human rights record and attitude toward homosexuality. As recently as last month, a Qatar World Cup ambassador told a German TV broadcaster homosexuality was damage to the mind and remains illegal to be gay in the conservative Muslim country. The U.S. men's national team appeared to have made an immediate stand. They've changed the usual red stripes on their crest to a rainbow around their team base. All around their team base. And they have the trans flag there, too. That's exciting. So when you are presenting America's face to the rest of the world, including the conservative Muslim world, the thing you have to do is show that what America truly stands for is not the red, white, and blue that has historically represented the United States. You stand for the light pink and the light blue and the white of the trans flag, as well as the rainbow flag. Pride progress is what America is all about. America isn't about constitutional democracy. It isn't about freedom of speech. It's not about freedom of religion. America, when you get right down to it, when we are talking about the cultural imperialism that America pushes abroad, it used to be cultural imperialism in America. The stuff that really pissed off our enemies was the fact that we were pushing free markets and free speech and free ideas, right? That was the stuff that really ticked everybody off. The reason that Grapes of Wrath, the movie, was banned in the Soviet Union famously is because in the movie, which is about a Great Depression family struggling, they have a car. And everybody in the Soviet Union is like, wait, hold up. You're saying the poorest people in America have cars? What? That was...
What does this have to do with the flag? You're so far off base. Samson Dutzy, thanks for gifting a tier 1 sub. Appreciate
America's
that.
cultural export. America's cultural export during World War II was America is a place that preserves democracy and freedom of religion. That was our cultural export. Now, America's chief cultural export, because you can't have the American flag anymore. The chief cultural export is we love...
Just have a breaking, apparently leaked email from the guy who just lost like billions and billions of dollars on FTX. So holy shit, in which Sam Bankman-Fried admits that his effective altruism was just a front. And of course it was. We all knew that. If you didn't know, the guy who basically just crashed and was like the final death rattle of cryptocurrency for now, this dude ended up raising billions of dollars in capital to make this the FTX market possible, and now has lost nearly all of it. But he was always famous as well for doing this thing where it's like, I want to become as rich as possible because if I become super rich, I can help the most people. My goal is to be as altruistic as possible. And even all these famous YouTubers started doing videos with him, not Mr. Beast, but the other one who always like stands in front of the camera. And it's just like, you won't believe it, but this guy right here says that he wants to save the planet. How's he going to do that? He's going to save the planet by making as much money as possible. Like, subscribe, follow me right now, and I'm going to show you all the secrets to his success. And like, are any of them going to take it back? So the ethics stuff, mostly a front. People will like you if you win and hate you if you lose, and that's how it all really works. Yeah. I mean, that's not all of it, but it's a lot. The worst quadrant is the sketchy plus lose. The best is win plus, I don't know. Clean plus lose is bad, but not terrible. You were really good at talking about ethics for someone who kind of saw it all as a game with winners and losers. Yeah, I had to be. It's what reputations are made of to some extent. I feel bad for those who get fucked by it, by this dumb game we woke Westerners play where we say all the right shibboleths and everyone likes us. Cool stuff. Cool and normal. Neolibs are not having a great time right now.
The transgressive sexual agenda. That is our thing. That is how we judge whether a country is good or bad. We don't judge them based on any other criteria. If Hungary has a political system that allows for free voting and where there is an opposition press, contrary to popular opinion.
International condemnation. Multiple investigations.
If Hungary has free elections and freedom of religion, if Hungary has all those things, but they're restrictive on immigration and they're really not super hot on the LGBTQ agenda, this means that they are basically Qatar. And Qatar, as we know, is evil, not because of their repressive agenda with regard to women or their violation of human rights or their unwillingness to allow the people to have a voice in their own fate or their barring of free speech or their very weak laws with regard to state ownership.
So according to the International Organization for Freedom of the Press, Free Press Unlimited, Hungary ranks 85th in the RSF Press Freedom Index. 10 years ago, it ranked 40th. This deterioration of press freedom is attributed to a systematic deterioration of the rule of law and shift towards authoritarianism led by Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who won the 4th consecutive term as Hungary's Prime Minister in April 2022. Orban is described as an extreme right-wing populist and the only pro-Putin leader of the European Union who uses his right to veto to defend Russian interests. His party, Fidesz, was a landslide victory, gaining a big majority in the parliament, which allowed them to pass laws and regulations without substantive consultation and public participation. Prime Minister Viktor Orban, whom Reporters Without Borders has deemed a press freedom predator, has built a media empire in the last 12 years since 2010, whose outlets follow the party's orders. They're owned by the Kesma Foundation, which consists of around 500 outlets that gets approximately 85% of the state advertising revenue. Independent media maintain major positions in the market, but they are subject to political, economic, and regulatory pressures. The chilling effect is very strong, leading to self-censorship amongst journalists and editors. Even though independent journalists are used as being subjects of government smear campaigns, the government regularly accuses critical media of dissenting false information and of receiving funding from George Soros, a billionaire of Hungarian and Jewish origin. In addition to this, journalists critical of the government are often harassed online by ruling party supporters. They are attacked by trolls, flooded with comments, and many personal elements, especially to female journalists. Representatives of the government do not speak to independent journalists. Sometimes they are forbidden from events. The situation has slightly developed since the elections. It's basically just like every single one of them have to always constantly praise Viktor Orban, even though it's like, I mean, that's a weird thing to have added at the end too. Like, contrary to what you might have heard, contrary to what people might say. It's like, well, what people are you referring to?
Property versus private property ownership. That's not really the problem. The problem is that Qatar is really, really not in favor of gay marriage. Like the fact that this has become the single litmus test for decency in the modern world is kind of an astonishing thing. It's kind of, and the fact that this is what America chooses to export to the world is also an astonishing. And then we wonder, why do all these people
rainbow.
Look at us as though we are a decadent West? Now, again, they're not right to think of us as the decadent West compared to their own decadence. Right? They have a different kind of decadence. But if your chief cultural export is in fact the most left-wing version of the social agenda, the transing of the children, for example,
the
do you expect
transing of the
everybody else to
children
react with alacrity to your generalized demands to change world culture? What exactly is the appeal? The clashing worldview between the Judeo-Christian individualistic world mindset of, say, 1942 America and the Nazi mindset or the Soviet mindset of that same time period was pretty clear. The mindset of the radical subjectivist individualism of America versus the rest of the world, I'm sorry, but we are disconnected from history. We are disconnected from our own ideology and our own roots. And if this is what we choose to push, again, of all the things that America has to push, this is what you should, all right. I mean, sure.
Are you suggesting that the ideology of Germany at the time was better, or American independent thought was better in that time period as well? Is that where we're staking where things should revert to?
Sure. Neil Buth, the U.S. MNT's chief...
I think you're deeply confused, sir. There's a lot of things going on here. They're coming in fast and furious.
Communications officer told Daily Mail, our rainbow badge has an important and consistent role in the identity of U.S. soccer. In fact, here was the USA soccer head coach, Greg Berhalter, talking about redefining the crest so that it is now not the American flag, it is now the rainbow.
I know you guys have talked about kind of wanting to bring the Be the Change discussion here to Qatar. I saw the rainbow flag logo here on the training facility. I wonder if you can speak to why it was important to have that here where the team is training, and just kind of what the discussions have been like with the team about those types of messages here in Qatar.
Yeah, we've been talking to the team for the last 18 months about Qatar, about some social issues in Qatar. And we think it's important, like wherever, I think that, when we are on the world stage and we are in a venue like Qatar, it's important to bring awareness to these issues. And that's what Be the Change is about.
Oh, they're a change agent. They're not a soccer team representing America. They're a change agent in favor of gay marriage. This is why I objected very strongly when the Obama administration decided to project the gay flag on the White House in the aftermath of Obergefell, because the idea was that is not representative of all Americans. It isn't. I'm sorry. The notion that America is chiefly about gay marriage is an absurdity. It is not. America is about the principles of...
You're still so far from the actual, all right, let's see. Pew Research gay marriage. Let's find out how far we are away.
The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Like, that's the stuff we actually signed on the dotted line for. I'm unaware where everybody signed on the dotted line.
According to left-wing pinko communist data center Pew Research, it would appear as time has gone on, around 2010 was unfortunately where the schism happened, and then sin and degeneracy has taken over, and then the average percentage of US adults who favor and oppose same-sex marriage, it has risen to 61% of Americans and climbing as of 2019, the last that we have the data on this. There has been a changing of attitudes on this. It's no longer a concern. Americans aren't afraid. They're not scared of this. Most places, you know, who have undergone one form or another of gay marriage and seen what happens when it happens aren't. It's just like, oh yeah, they're just like us. Well, that's funny.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback, because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, we shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel K., Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demmel, Mark Harmon, Benji Arney, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tal, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojak, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.